Morris. I'm a director at Simplicit, a customer-led innovation agency. Okay, so in terms of my background, I started out doing a course in commerce, majoring in information systems, and that was around about 15 years ago now. So I had a very different background in terms of where I came from coming into a design agency. And what I studied was largely around business and technology. And at the same time, while I was studying all that, I became very, very interested in innovation thinking, design, and I was actually running a little business on the side doing design work. And that really got me interested in the field, very much so. And then from there, once I graduated, I was able to get work in consulting, and that gave me a taste in what it was like to actually go around to a whole bunch of different companies and sell services and sell time. And so from there, that's where I started to gradually, and a lot of them I found out really needed, wasn't so much branding and logo design and industrial design type services, but what they really needed was design thinking for their businesses in terms of, their business models, the way in which, what products in which to concentrate on. So I took the principles of what I learned in my early days to business in terms of how to solve problems with design thinking. So what inspired me most was the fact that there was such a big need for this type of service. So everywhere you look, design is something that, when done really, really well, can really be an inspiration for people, and it can really help us in terms of it can help us with anything, right? So you can apply design to making things look pretty, all the way through to how problems are actually solved. And I was more interested in, and I found design to have the most impact on people if you concentrated on how problems were actually solved. So for me, it was very much about making an impact through design. And I could see very, very clearly from the examples around me at the time, when I was getting into the industry, that it would be very, very beneficial to a large number of people when done right. So my personal design process is very much, I always try to start out by understanding the situation, understanding the problem that I'm looking to solve, and understanding the people who I'm solving that problem for. So that's very, very important to start with. I don't usually start with requirements and all that sort of thing. I tend to start with, after this, assuming I've already got the brief and I understand the client's constraints and budget and all that sort of thing, I then go and understand, who am I solving the problem for, and what the problem actually is. Because sometimes the problem, when it's defined, is not actually what the problem is. And you've just got to dig deeper and deeper and deeper until you get those unarticulated problems from the client. And that's the magic, that's where it is. And you can use that as a starting point to saying, all right, well, let's delve into this a little bit further, or even reframe the problem and understand it from a different perspective. So that's what I always start with, and then from there we're able to move into we do like a design thinking session where we come up and we look at ways of solutioning the problem, or exploring ideas for different ways that you can approach the solutions to the problem. And by doing that, that gets us out of this one mindset where we might be thinking about things down a particular track. We're able to look at things from different perspectives. Or we can look at how other industries have solved a particular problem, and we can take the best of those and mix them together. So that's something that that I do, and certainly something that we do within the company, very much so. From there, then we'll take what we've got and we'll put them in the form of concepts. and we take those concepts and then we test the different versions of those concepts, and we take feedback from our users, and then incorporate that feedback accordingly until such point that we can say, okay, one concept is a leader, and we pick that particular one and we take the best from the others and incorporate it into that one concept, and then we take that and run with it and just keep prototyping it all the way through and testing all the way through until we're at a point where we're like, okay, we got something here that we can release, whether it be software, whether it be a version of a product or whatever it is. We'll have it to a point where we're able to release it, and then and it's been validated, tested. We've explored the problem for all these different angles. But the whole point of what I'm trying to say as well is that the process never ends. So even once something has been released, you're always testing it with the market. You're always keeping your finger on the pulse of your users, because the product can change direction at any time. Favorite aspect of the job is the look on clients' faces when they realise that we can solve problems in so many creative ways, and that we're not limited to we're not just limited to what they think is the best way to solve a problem, or we're not limited to what other companies are doing in terms of how they solve problems. We can actually look at things in a very divergent manner and arrive at results that are beyond what people had already initially thought was possible. So yeah, the look on their faces when they realise that, and then from there, the look on their customers' faces when they realise that there's just such a much better way to do things. That's the ultimate for me. So we have a few different roles. They're experienced designer roles, so they're basically people who we have different hierarchies of designers. So we have your experienced, what we call just experienced designer, a senior, a lead, and then we've got directors on the top of that. Experienced designers, from leads down through to experienced designers, they're on the job. They're out there with the client. They're participating in those ideation sessions. They're coming up with the ideas. They're the ones who are actually doing the heavy lifting around the deliverables and the work itself, producing the concepts, producing the prototypes, enhancing and tweaking the designs, all that sort of thing, conducting the testing, doing the research. In terms of the seniority between them, we expect that a senior designer has been doing that for at least 5 years and doing that very, very well with a lot of results under their belt to show for it. A lead will then, still very hands-on, but does more of the stakeholder management, works on the schedules, works on budgets, mentors those who are junior to them. And a director, someone like myself, we're out there strategically working with the senior management of these organisations to look for opportunities where human-centred design would be most effective within their businesses. So we're doing mainly business development. We're overseeing the projects that are currently in progress, and we're playing more of an advisory role at this level, more so than hands-on doing the actual work. So they're the difference between the roles. In terms of managing a design job, it's first and foremost, I do my very best to understand what it is that is at the core of the problem that the client's articulating to me. So what the client says is the problem may not necessarily be the problem. So I just try to listen to what they're saying, but also listen to what they're not saying. And most of the time we need to recommend that we do research, so that we go out and talk to these customers first and foremost, or talk to the staff who we're solving the problem for first and foremost, so that we understand who we're solving the problem for and if it really is the problem that's being articulated to us. So I start with that research, and then from there we go through the rest of that process. We analyse the results, we decide what we're going to focus on based on the feedback from that research, do some concepts, and then translate that into prototypes. Clients are largely coming to us right now. The market is very healthy, and it's it is that way because there are just so many opportunities out there. Companies are really waking up to the fact that human-centered design can really help them differentiate, and they look around, they say, all right, well, who can help us? And they realise that the market is, in terms of services, folks who offer it, there's not that many organisations out there and skilled workers out there in this area. So there's a lot of demand for this work right now. Sydney and Melbourne are pretty much exactly the same in terms of how they run things as us up here. Collaboration wise, we work with, if there's resources that are on the bench in Melbourne or in Sydney, then meaning that if they're available, we'll have them up here if we've got work, and we do share resources a lot between the different cities, but in terms of process and clients and all that sort of stuff, it's exactly the same in that respect. 3 points of advice. Well, the first would be for students to get as much experience as they can, hands-on experience as they can while at uni. So whether that be volunteering and working with startups, or volunteering and working with non-profits, hosting and running events as well in the industry to bring people together. Those things go a long way in terms of what employers find attractive, because it says a lot about their initiative. It says a lot about them applying their knowledge that they've learned, the theory that they've learned. So those things go a very, very long way, getting as much experience as possible under the belt while at uni, while at college. The second one would just be to focus on mental attitude. I think that's very important, and it's very important for people to understand what, and it's not just at this age, it can be at any age, that we've got, a lot of us do have a set of limiting beliefs, and that I think it's important for people to be aware of what those beliefs are, so that they can clear them out of the way to achieve what it is that they really, really want to get in their lives. So it's very, very important that they're conscious of that, I think, and have that awareness. So that's the second thing. And the third thing is to look at works by, particularly by Edward de Bono, or what creativity really is all about. I'm sure you guys coming from a course that has concentrated on this are ahead of the curve, but I think it's also very important that people do some wider reading as well on what creativity is all about and how it can be used in all sorts of different situations. He's got very, very good methods as well, and he talks about how you can apply those methods in everyday situations. So very, very much recommend reading his works and other works as well. Always keep learning. Is probably the fourth thing I'll add to that list, because there's never you're never at a point where you know everything, and I think keeping that at the beginner's mind is key. And that's it. They're my four things.